Most backpackers simply don't need the world's fanciest and most expensive gear. So earlier this year, I took a deep dive into Amazon to find a quality budget setup for under $500. While I found some excellent pieces, some gear just wasn't good enough. So I went further into the Amazon rabbit hole to see if I could improve the gear list and find a setup that would truly work for real backpackers. Now, I'm on a section of the Colorado Trail to put this budget gear to a real world test.
Well, this is just an absolute delight in here. I'm crossing the Animas River, which has been that river that you saw leading up to that spectacular mountain. There's a train that runs down this valley. It's pretty special in here. This is awesome. Well, I thought I was gonna carry on a little further, but I saw one of the most stunning, truly special campsites that I've come across in a long time. So I've got the huge mountains of the Wiminuche Wilderness behind me. I've got the Animas River off to my left, and then I'm actually right in between the train line and the Animas River. If you watched my other video, you've seen this pack, and this is an $80 backpack called the Nevo Rhino. Before I moved on to try other Amazon backpacks, I just wanted to get more miles in this one. Backpacks are the type of thing that they don't really reveal their flaws until you've really used them for more miles, more days, and so I did just want to try it with a heavier load, and I've got about 36 pounds in here. So that's actually pretty heavy, but that's kind of my MO. I'm typically in the mid-30s for backpacking, mostly because I'm carrying camera equipment. But again, where this pack really excels is up here in the airflow. It has almost a too aggressive design, like I said before, but it is a very impressive system. And the thing that I noticed this time around with the heavier load is that this foam is just on the cheaper side. I mean, of course it is, because it's a cheap pack, but I did start to notice like some sore shoulders and that achy shoulder syndrome thing that I talk about sometimes. This is holding a lot, and it still carried well, and it wasn't very creaky, like which can drive people crazy, drives me crazy, and it didn't really do that. I was also impressed that this time around, I was able to fit my tent on the inside. Last time my tent was so big and bulky, it wouldn't fit on the inside, and this time, I've got a new tent, and let's open that one up, because this is the piece of gear that I think this time around, I'm the most excited about. I brought a book this time. This is something fun and secret for now. All right. This is the tent from Featherstone. This is a 2-person backpacking tent. The last tent that I used was the Yosemite hike and bike, and a lot of people were saying in the comments that that's not a very good tent. Just in case you're commenting, that's not very helpful, but to say, hey, try the Featherstone, AKA this tent, like some people did, that is a helpful comment. I picked up the Featherstone 2-person, and this one, where the other tent was 5.5 pounds, this one is just a hair over 4 pounds. This is a 4-pound, 2-ounce tent. So that is much better, and it costs less. This was $109. So I am very excited about this tent find, and I've already set it up. I've actually already slept in it, but let's show you for the first time ever. The first thing that stands out to me about this tent is that it has a lot of interior space. For a cheap 2-person tent, a lot of times the other ones that I looked at don't have this brow pole that goes across sideways that really makes these walls nearly vertical. And that is the biggest difference. I did actually buy one other Amazon tent that was even a little bit more expensive. I immediately was like, oh, hell no. This one is pretty terrible. I'll show you that one later. But this one is actually a really nice tent. And they have a lot of features packed into a 4-pound tent. And the reason why this one is so much lighter, I think, than the other one is really the rainfly. It's that sil nylon versus a polyester. And the polyester is just way heavier, where this one has the sil nylon fly, which I don't know how they do that when they're actually, this is a cheaper tent. The other one was like 120 bucks, and this one's $109. I have some dead flies that I trapped in here accidentally this morning. But this one even has a huge little storage cubby up here. So this thing can actually hold quite a bit. It's got multiple storage pockets here, and then one over there. So as far as I can tell, this is an ambidextrous tent. And what I mean by that is there's no head really. This is probably the head just because of the way the doors open, but you could really use this either way. The tent poles also can go on either side. There's no screwing it up where one set of tent poles or one side of the tent poles has to go into the tent on one side. That I really appreciate. It makes setup a breeze. Everything about this actually feels shockingly high quality. Honestly, very impressed that a $109 tent can be as good as this is. So last time I got the Climate Static V, the uninsulated version, and that was a $39 mattress. So I decided to upgrade this time to the Climate Static V, but the one with insulation. The lack of insulation really concerned me on the last trip. I was really nervous, and it was fine. Like, I didn't really feel the ground, but here I'm in Colorado, I'm up at much higher elevations, and even though it's still summertime, I wanted to really try out one that had much better R value. This one is Climate's theoretically 4-season mattress at 4.4 R value. However, if you are seriously needing a 4-season mattress, I would urge you to look elsewhere for really cold temperatures. I've heard reports that this isn't at 4.4. There are much more warm R value mattresses out there, which means it's probably not actually 4.4. One of the things that's different about this mattress versus the other one is this inflation valve. It has this roll valve that you deflate it over here and you inflate it by rolling it back this way. And that's cool and that's great and all, but it is kind of an awkward ergonomics of actually blowing this up. Kind of makes you feel like you're French kissing something. Don't use tongue. I'm really not a big fan of this valve. I definitely prefer mattresses that have the inflation sac. They're vastly easier and faster to use, but this is cheaper. I can't tell if this is a gimmick shape or not. The last time I slept on the uninsulated version, it was more comfortable than I expected, but it still was a far cry from the more comfortable mattresses out there. It costs $64, and it's a 23-inch wide mattress, and it weighs 24 ounces. That's not terrible. It's a pretty good R value. I like the 23-inch wide mattress, that it gets you those extra couple inches. Usually the basic models are only 20 inches wide. And then at 24 ounces, that's surprisingly competitive, even though there's definitely lighter mattresses out there. I decided to upgrade. We'll see how it actually goes tonight. Something else that I'm actually pretty excited about is the Kelty Cosmic down 20 degree Fahrenheit sleeping bag. Now, this is the same temperature rating as the last one that I got, which was from the North Face, but that was a synthetic bag. And honestly, I thought that was, of all the things that I picked up, that was the worst item of them all. So I decided to go a little bit deeper. I read a bunch of comments that you all had provided, which were also mostly very helpful, like I said, and Kelty is a brand that has been around forever. Like, it's definitely a well-known brand. Something that I appreciate about this one is that, one, it is actually down. It's 550 fill power down. That's kind of on the lowest end of the spectrum for fill power, which basically just means it's lower quality down, and they need to use more of it to achieve a certain amount of loft for the warmth rating. So it's still a lightweight bag, and it's still smaller and lighter and more compressible than my North Face 20 degree bag that I used last time. And the other thing that I really like about it is that Kelty also does the RDS certified down. They at least advertise that their down is ethically sourced. This was $120, so it's $40 more expensive than my last sleeping bag, but I really think that this upgrade is gonna be worth it. I spend like a third of my day in a sleeping bag and on a sleeping mat when I'm camping. So I really want that to feel good and cozy and warm. So I'm gladly willing to spend a little bit more. So still, this is a $120 bag paired with a $64 mattress. So you're still looking at like $185 for a sleeping bag and a sleeping mattress. That is a bargain. So the last time I did this, I didn't buy a pillow, and some keen observer noticed that I did use my premium down Sea to Summit pillow. That this is a $27 pillow that I got from Outdoor Vitals. Yeah, there's probably like a $12 pillow out there somewhere, but I like this one and it's cheap, so I'm throwing it in. One of the reasons why I like it is it's got these silicone dots, so it doesn't slip and slide around as much on a sleeping mat, sleeping pad, or mattress. Let's go dive into some other fun toys. So the last time I did this video, I had a $500 budget, and I ended up spending $474. This time around, I dove in a little deeper. I went a tiny bit more premium on certain items like we just discussed, and I was able to come away with everything that I bought last time for $503. So I just exceeded my $500 budget, but I'm gonna average them out and we're gonna call it good because I had some wiggle room. If you go back, I had like $26 in my credits from the last time I did this. There are a couple of things that I didn't include in that $500 budget that's going to put me closer to $600. One, it was that Outdoor Vitals pillow, which is a $26 pillow. So last time I didn't buy a pillow. So this time I bought a pillow, and I got one more fun item, a camp chair. This is a camp chair? No. Some of you might remember when I came across this 360-degree swivel stool from Grand Trunk. Well, they've updated it. It's still a 360-degree swivel stool, but it compacts down even smaller. Have you ever seen something this funky? I've mostly been using, true camp chairs for the last, I would say, year and a half, 2 years. This doesn't have the back support, but it's got the funk appeal. I could do this all day. Maybe I will. Hey look, this stool even has a place for your nuts. If you don't think this stool is cool, you're nuts. So this is currently selling on Amazon for 80 bucks. So with the $80 for this stool, the $27 for the pillow, that brings my grand total to a little over $600. So this is a more premium setup this time around. But I think that this is a lot closer to what a real backpacker could truly use, especially now that I have a tent that I can actually confidently be like, yeah, this is a pretty good tent for $109. I think this is a pretty dang good setup, and I think I'm really finally getting it dialed in. All right, so rather than stick with something that I'm a lot more familiar with in the Sawyer Squeeze, I decided to try out a new water filtration system. And as I was digging through Amazon, I kept coming up with this company, Membrane Solutions. This is kind of in line with like LifeStraw, Sawyer. This was a $39 water filter, which also comes with a 6-liter hang bag, and it is a gravity-fed system. If you don't want to use it like a gravity-fed filter, you can use it just like this. Use it like the LifeStraw or the Sawyer Squeeze, where you can literally just drink from it like this if you put this into a dirty water source, and it also connects in with a water bottle. So I thought that this was pretty cool, that for 39 bucks I could get a quality water filter as well as a gravity-fed system, which will make it really easy for me to just haul this water back to camp, a bunch of liters, and I'll have water through my night and tomorrow morning until I'm ready to break camp tomorrow. All right, let's go try it out. I hope it works, because literally never used it.
So there's some obvious benefits to having a system like this. You can do a large amount of water at one time. You can just scoop up 6 liters of water, hang it somewhere, and then there's no pumping required. So if you're used to pumping or squeezing to filter, doing it this way is a pretty dang convenient way to do it. However, I will say I'm from the desert and there's not always trees. And I have come across situations where using a filter like this has become extremely difficult. So if you're planning on using a filter like this above tree line or in a desert situation where there's maybe nothing to hang it from, this might not be the filter to choose. However, in a place like this, in an environment like this where there's large bodies of water, streams flowing, this is a pretty ideal situation for a gravity-fed filter. And at $39 for the whole unit, I call that a win. It's time to make dinner, and I've got at least a little bit of some new things. Some of what I'm still using is just because it was too good and I honestly couldn't find anything better. But there were still some items that I was like, okay, I want to try and branch out some new things. And the last time I did this, I had the AO2 stove. That was a $13 stove. And I had a few people that reached out to me and they were like, hey, you gotta check out the Camping Moon. And it's a very similar stove to the Soto Windmaster. I went online and I found it for $30. There's a couple of big differences between this and the AO2 or the BRS. One, you've got this detachable pot stand. And this is actually far more stable than either of the other two stoves. And then the other is that you have a fuel pressure regulator. And that just is gonna make sure that you get a much more consistent flow and waste less fuel. My favorite thing about this by far is this piezo igniter. Yeah, that's smooth. Ooh, yeah. Got my dinner, and if you've been around on the channel, you know that Pinnacle Foods is my absolute favorite backpacking meal. They are awesome. They are from a small company. I didn't buy them on Amazon, and they're my favorite food. So, giving them a plug because I love that little small company. Thai peanut curry on the menu tonight. I love this one. I do have to say that I'm just really impressed with this stove. It actually feels like a super high quality stove. The Soto Windmaster is considered one of the best all-around backpacking stoves, and this one is about half the price. And I don't know if it's literally a knockoff, but it does the same thing that a Soto Windmaster does. I did post a recent video that got a lot of pushback in the sense that a lot of people had strong opinions about the concept of knockoffs, and that's cool. Like, I totally get your opinion and even share it in some capacity. Stoves don't have to be complicated, and a lot of companies are just charging double, triple, quadruple, tentuple, because they can and because the brand has marketing power. If you're just trying to get into backpacking and you're just overwhelmed by prices, like, just get a really cheap stove. And this one also is like super high quality. I did all right. This was moderately comfortable. The pairing of the sleeping bag and the mattress was good, like a C, an average. Certainly have slept on much more comfortable mattresses in my day. One thing that was cool with this sleeping bag is a lot of the times the cheap ones don't have draft collars and the ability to cinch this up. But this one you can actually cinch up pretty good. So if you are hitting those colder temperatures, if you do this, you'll lose the heat. You won't lose the heat out of your sleeping bag
nearly as fast, so it's much warmer if you sleep like this. Kind of a little funny, this has like a big cord right here, so it's not the best execution of these draft cinches, but it's there, so decently good night.
Morning. Good hike. Trying a cup of Death Wish coffee. It's the most expensive coffee you can buy for this. The complete opposite end of the spectrum of the budget. But it's good. So I slept well last night. I tried sleeping without the rain fly for a while because I wanted to look at the stars. And the stars were incredible. The Milky Way passed right over those peaks, and that was pretty phenomenal. It was basically a new moon last night, but it did get chilly. There was no concern for rain, but I did want to put the rain fly on because it blocked the wind, and there was just this light breeze that kept passing through that was really making me chilled. So once I threw the rain fly on, it holds my own body temperature in, and it blocks the wind from passing through. So it was much more comfortable after I did that. I think the thing that I'm most stoked about for this round is this tent. At the price point, this tent is far better than it really should be, in my opinion. At $109, this thing really outperforms, and I think it can actually be a real backpacking tent. So for those of you who are looking to get into backpacking and not spend a ton of money, this is actually probably the best solution that I've come across for the price point. The main difference between this and some of the other cheap tents that I've used is the fly. This is the sil nylon, which is a better material, a lighter, thinner material than the polyester. And so that alone shaves like 1.5 pounds off this tent. The other thing that's great is that it has these vents. It has 2 vents on each side, and that actually seems to really work, kept the moisture down from inside. And then it has these really lightweight buckles. So this is a much smaller buckle than like the hike and bike one. And it just is cleaner. It's just a better production. Really clean, like the zippers are clean. The doors are big. You can get in and out of this tent without army crawling, which is really nice. This sleeping bag was, again, good. It wasn't, all of this stuff is going to be, I think, serviceably good. So if you are looking to get into backpacking, you're kind of on the newer end, and you're not super aggressive with everything, and you're looking to get out for probably like a handful of weekends or a handful of trips a year, then this honestly will be a good setup. The Kelty Cosmic 20-degree bag was a very serviceably good bag. It was comfortable. It's got a nice texture to it. I was warm enough. It got down to probably about 40 degrees last night. And for a 20-degree bag, the comfort rating is probably closer to like 30 to 35. And I feel like that's pretty accurate. Now, is it the best sleeping bag I've ever used? Far from it, but at the price, it is really good. Now, where some of the downsides are is the zipper did really like to catch on the materials in here quite a bit. So I did have to like be careful and when my zipping up, because it really did catch the materials and fabric a lot. On a positive, it does have this drawstring, which some of the cheaper ones don't have. As I was pulling it in the night to cinch it up, I literally tore this thing off because I couldn't tell how it was connected, and it tore off with almost no effort. So that was kind of tied on very cheaply. And then the other thing was the way that this cinches, you can see that the strings are basically going to be against your skin. At the price at $120, it's impressive that it even has this feature, because that does actually make a big difference when the temperatures do drop. To be able to close that in, you're not going to have heat escape throughout the night, which was what I had for the first few hours as I was sleeping. And then as it got really cold, I really had to cinch down, and it made a big difference. There's ample enough room. The last cheap sleeping bag that I got was really too constricting. I could barely fit in it. And this fits. I'm a 6 foot tall guy, and this fit me well enough. I'm pretty happy with this. I like that it's down. It compresses a lot smaller. It's a light sleeping bag. That's a good price. 120 bucks is a good price for the sleeping bag. The Climate Static V or Static 5. This is the insulated version. The last time I used this, it was the uninsulated version. And for the difference of $24, I would absolutely encourage people to get this mattress over the uninsulated version. This is a big upgrade over the foam accordion mattresses that most people get when they're trying to stay on the cheap end. The downside is that it's still just not that comfortable of an air mattress. So I've used a lot of air mattresses, and this would be at the bottom end of the spectrum for comfort for air mattresses. But it's still, at 64 bucks, it does the job, it gets it done, and I was certainly comfortable enough to sleep pretty well throughout the night. The valves, the inflation, the deflation that I'm not a big fan of, it doesn't deflate very easily, but at 24 ounces for a 23-inch wide mattress, it's actually pretty good. If you're getting more serious about your backpacking, this would be one of the first things that I would really encourage people to upgrade on, to get something that's in the $150 to $200 range, because it's that important to me. But for people who are only doing a few trips a year, this is a perfectly good solution because you can be comfortable enough, you can sleep well enough. Because I've used a lot of the nicer stuff out there, that I miss my nicer mattress for sure. And then my $27 pillow, it was really good. It did a good job of not slipping and sliding around last night. So this $110 tent, $64 mattress, $120 sleeping bag, $27 pillow, that was really good pairing. And I can comfortably say that if you're unsure of what to get for a low end price point, this is a nice pairing. One of the pieces of gear that I've also been impressed with is this Membrane Solutions water filter. I've been hesitant to use gravity filters in the past, but this one has a really good flow rate, super easy to use. You know, this filter itself is a tiny bit on the bulky end, but really not anything that different than the Life Straws or Sawyer's or some of the other very comparably styled filters. You know, if you're doing group backpacking trips and you need to filter a lot of water, this is obviously a really nice way to do it, so you don't have to pump. Physically pumping can be quite exhausting. But even for solo trips, I could see myself using this. Pretty cool. So a couple more things to give my thoughts on. This stool, I think is a pretty interesting solution to camp chairs, although stools in general are definitely just less comfortable than full-on chairs. Not having back support, I sat in this chair and I was reading quite a bit, and after maybe an hour, I just kind of couldn't take it anymore. I needed to lay down, and if I had a chair, then I could feel like I could just linger for quite some time. But that being said, like, it's just really nice to get off the ground. And one thing that I do like is the ability to swivel around, especially when I'm cooking. This is a very handy perch to cook from. This chair weighs 1.2 pounds, which is about the same weight as some of the more expensive chairs that are out there. It is pretty cool little design though. I kind of like how it gets as small as it does. I mean, look at that. It's just kind of like a little football. Normally listed at like $100, and then there was like a discount sale that they were offering for 80 bucks. It's a cool little device, but if you're gonna spend 80 or 100, I feel like you might as well spend a little bit more and get something that's a lot more comfortable. But at the same time, pretty cool, pretty fun, and if you like stools, this is a good one. They definitely win some awards, in my opinion, for creativity. Pretty fun. All right, so what are the items that I'm really gonna use and incorporate into my extended backpacking gear list? So this would be not just when I'm looking to do budget gear videos, but what will actually work for consistent ongoing backpacking. And there are a few items. So The main ones are the smaller items. So this Tokes cook pot, which I got for 26 bucks, this weighs less than my Vargo titanium pot and is a quarter of the price. To me, this $26 pot is as cheap and as good as it gets, and I'm definitely gonna be using this consistently moving forward. The other thing is this stove. I really like this stove. I've been using the BRS 3000 stove for the last year plus, and I think this is now my new favorite. So the main difference is that it's got some wind protection up here, and it really does work. Last night was kind of breezy as I was cooking. It's very efficient. I love having the piezo igniter. It's a very clean system. It burns very smooth, it boils fast, and it does have a little bit of a fuel regulator in there, so I think that it's going to be a really nice solution moving forward. And it's still small enough and light enough that you don't really need anything more or less than that one. The other thing that I think has gonna make it into my consistent rotation is this headlamp, the Nitecore NU25. I do really like this. And the other thing that I noticed is that these cords are also, they glow in the dark, which is kind of fun. But this is a very good, simple, lightweight headlamp. I'm really pleased with the different modes and how much light it does put out. I think that there is a version that's a little bit more powerful that will hold a battery for a little bit longer that I want to explore, because this would be great for like 2-3 day backpacking trips. But if I'm doing more than that, I probably need to bring a recharger for it or a battery bank to recharge, because I think the battery lifespan on this might be a little bit limited. But for like 3 day backpacking trips, it'll be just great. Again, this was from my last thing, and this is a cup that I've been using for years, and it is absolutely my favorite cup. It is the Yuko collapsible camp cup. It's a $9 camp cup, and I do like having a double-walled insulated mug, of course, sometimes, but this is just cheap, light, simple, and I've been using it for years, and I'm fond of it. So this one will stay in my rotation. And also from Yuko is their cutlery, their spoon spork combo, which is also one of my favorite little items. This is, I think, also about $8 or $9. And it's got a knife in here that's actually pretty good. It's just always been my favorite little nesting spoon sport combo. You can get into food bags without getting your knuckles covered in food. And of course, if somebody does forget a utensil, you have 2 utensils. I think for the rest of the gear, the backpack, the tent, the sleeping bag, the mattress, it has its place, and I'm excited to share that with other people because I think other backpackers can really use those items. However, for me, I just will probably use gear that's a little bit lighter, a little bit better, definitely more expensive, but I already own the gear, so those things probably will not replace what I already have and love. But what I really like is that I feel like, whereas the last time I did this video, there were only a few items that I really felt like I could truly endorse, and the rest was like, oh, that's cool and that's cheap, but it's not the best. And this time I feel like the tent is actually really good, the sleeping bag is serviceably good, and then the mattress, the sleeping mattress, is also adequately good. Like, real backpackers can really actually use this stuff. The water filter as well. I think that's gonna be like one of those things where I definitely will use it in the future. It's probably not gonna be my main go-to water filter, but for certain trips, I'm gonna bring it. And I'm excited to have learned and expanded my skill set and knowledge about these kinds of gear. So I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what is your favorite standout piece of gear. If you have some recommendations, some other gear, please leave it in the comments below, because I want to keep exploring budget, cheaper, lower end gear that a lot of people, that's just where most people are at. Most people are going to be using the less expensive stuff. Okay, well, the time has come for me to pack up and head on out of here. It's really fun to get to test this type of gear in real places, on real backpacking trips. And I'm on a little stretch of the Colorado Trail. I'm only doing a smidgen of the whole thing. And this has just been so stunning, so beautiful. And yeah, I've got more adventures that are happening out
in this region, so make sure that you are subscribed and sticking around. And if you've got questions about any of the gear, or you have some other recommendations for gear that I need to test out that's on the budget end of the spectrum, or whatever you just feel like saying, please hit me up. I love hearing from you. And yeah, it's time to hit the trail. So thanks so much for watching. I'm Eric Hansen. I'll see you later, everybody. Hey look, this stool even has a place for your nuts. Hey look, this stool even has a place for your salted nuts. Hey look, this stool even has a place to store your nuts. Hey look, I found nuts in my stool. This is getting out of hand.